بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. Chapter number 47 states باب صوم الصبيان. وقال عمر رضي الله عنه لنشوان في رمضان ويلك والصبيان ناس صيام فضربه. حدثنا مسدد قال حدثنا بشر بن المفضل عن خالد بن ذكوان عن الربيع بنت معوذ أنها قالت أرسل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم غداة عاشوراء إلى قرى الأنصار من أصبح مفطرا فليتم بقية يومه ومن أصبح صائما فليصم. قالت فكنا نصومه بعد ونسوم صبياننا ونجعل لهم اللعبة من العهن فإذا بكى أحدهم على الطعام أعطيناه ذاك حتى يكون عند الإفطار. Chapter 47 says the fasting of children. Sawm al-Subyan, children fasting, i.e. the recommendation for children to fast. And the encouragement for the parents and the guardians to encourage and occasionally force them to fast. That's what's meant by this chapter. The encouragement for children to fast, it's not obligatory, but it's a good thing for them to do, for them to train, and for them to become accustomed with worship, and also for them to become accustomed with hardship. It's a very important technique of parenting. Successful parenting is getting your child to understand that this world is full of hardship. And that there's no one that can fully escape hardship in this world. The wealthiest of kings, who sits in the finest of palaces, there has to come a day in his or her life, prince or princess, in which that person experiences some type of a hardship. On one level or another. That's the reality of life. So oftentimes we as parents, we teach our children and we raise them in a synthetic bubble of lies. That everything in life is sweet and pleasant and happy and everyone's friendly and everything is going to be fine and be okay, and that's not true. Of course, we don't go to the other extreme saying things which are inappropriate to children. We don't go to the other extreme in mistreating children, abusing children, being mean to children. We don't go to the other extreme and exposing children to things that they're not supposed to be exposed to. But you get the point I'm trying to make, is that from day one, the child must be taught small level, is that there's some pain in life. There is a prick that you're going to feel. And there's no way that you're going to remain unscathed in this world. The earlier you teach that to your son and your daughter, the better chance they have at being successful in this world. Because we all know when you're young and you lose your innocence, and you come face to face with the harsh realities of life that your parents told you didn't exist, or your father never warned you against, or your mother told me, she didn't tell me it was going to be like this. You feel betrayed. You feel let down. Why didn't Abby tell me this was going to happen to me in life? Why did my mother warn me? It's a reality. So when you tell people, you keep it real with people, you're honest with people, it allows them to brace for impact. Brace for impact. And of course, in boxing, getting hit with a punch isn't the same as getting hit with a counter punch. You getting hit with a punch, you can prepare for the punch. You're ready. But if you yourself are throwing a punch, you're not expecting what? To get counter punch. So it's worse. Because you're getting hit and you aren't expecting, you can't brace for it. You can't suck it up and bite down and take the punch. So oftentimes when you're prepared mentally, it makes it easier for you in life. So from the techniques of successful parenting is to teach your children that there are hardships in life. There are difficulties in life, and there's pain in life. And everything in life isn't going to be happy-go-lucky. Everything in life isn't going to be sweet and tasty. There's bitterness in this world. And teaching them to be patient and to be tough from day one. And this is from the wisdoms why some of the Salaf al-Salih would delay circumcision for their children. They would delay it. And they wouldn't do it super early. They would delay it a little bit. That way the young child, would understand pain is a reality. and it's a part of life. You can train your child to do that at 6. What happens when they become 16? What happens when they become 26? And this is one of the reasons why the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, their children did the things that they did. And this is one of the reasons why children, alaykum salam, who don't live with the comfort of the inner city, whether that's in the forest or the mountains or the hills or the farm or the desert, they're far more mature and responsible. They can do things at 10 that a 10-year-old from the city can't do. Someone that's poor and needy, that's to go out and carry the buckets of water and chop the firewood. They're far more mature than someone who's pampered 24/7. All right? So there's wisdom in this. So the permissibility of children fasting, it's not mandatory unless they're pubescent, unless they're of sexual maturity, unless they're of age. It's lawful for them to fast. It's recommended for them to fast. Inshallah, it'll be a good deed for them, written in their scales. And it's recommended for the parents to push their children towards this spirituality at a young age. Imam Al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, he then quotes Umar radiallahu anhu, and obviously كما قلنا هذا الأثر معلق محذوف مبتدأ السند وقال عمر بين عمر وبين البخاري عدة رجال عدة أشخاص مفاوز تنقطع فيها إيش أعناق المطيع فعلق السند إلى عمر ولا يعني أن هذا الأثر لا يوجد موصولا متصلا إلى عمر لا يعني هذا ولا يعني أن البخاري رحمه الله تعالى لم يرويه بسند كامل متصل إلى عمر وإنما في هذا الموضع حذف من مبتدأ إسناده راويا رجلا فأكثر. في هذا المثال حذف جميع السند واتصل بعمر مباشرة وقال عمر. والمعلقات طبعا ليست هي على شرط الكتاب. شرط الكتاب الجامع الصحيح المسند. So for the advanced students, we've explained that when Imam Al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala quotes someone, and between that one that he quoted are several men and several narrators. Bukhari never met Umar, and he doesn't mention his chain of narration that goes back to Umar. There's a reason why. What's important is right here he says that Umar radiallahu anhu one day said, لِنَشْوَانْ فِي Ramadan. He said to a man who was drunk. He said to a drunkard. He was intoxicated in the month of Ramadan. وَيْلَكَ. Woe to you. Shame upon you. وَالصِّبْيَانُنَا صِيَامٌ. He says, our children are fasting. And you can't even fast. You're a grown man getting drinking whiskey. You're getting drunk and intoxicated, which is a major sin. And for month of Ramadan, which is more disrespectful. And you're not even as strong as our what? Our children. Alright? So this athar proves during the time of the Sahaba, the time of the Salaf al-Salih, they would encourage and force their children to do what? To fast. And the wisdom behind that is, by the time the child reaches puberty, is what? Second nature. It's clockwork. You do not force your child. And this goes to show how we as parents have fallen short, unfortunately. And we have been very neglectful and too soft. And you're trying to get your daughter to wear hijab when she's in puberty. And she never wore the hijab before. It's very difficult. You're trying to get your son to go to the masjid to pray, to stand still in the salah. He's in puberty. He likes girls now. His mind is disturbed. When his mind was pure and clean, he was a boy. All he thought about was toys and candy. It was easy to take him to the masjid. Come pray, I'll buy you a toy. Stand still in the salah, I'll buy you candy. It was easy. But now, he's not that easy. The price isn't that simple anymore. Now, he's attracted to the opposite sex. He's thinking about girls, 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 girls. So he doesn't want to pray. He doesn't want to fast. He doesn't want to be righteous. He doesn't want to grow his beard because growing a beard sticks out. People make fun of me. I look like a weirdo. Someone says I'm a terrorist. But if you taught him from day one not to shave, if you taught him from day one what to do correctly, by the time he reached puberty, it was nothing but a simple, smooth, what? Transition. Everyone understand this? A smooth transition. إِنَّمَا تَقْبَضُ الطِّينَةُ الْخَتْمَةُ وَهِيَ رَطْبَةٌ. You can, the potter cannot fabricate the pottery, the china, unless the clay is what? Has to be wet and soft. He molds it and paints it and signs it and designs it. The concrete, you can't write your name on the sidewalk after the concrete is still. When we were little kids, the concrete truck will be there for hours, turning the concrete, pouring the concrete. The men will be laying the concrete. The guy will come after, smoothing out the concrete. And what would the little kids do? We would wait. They would bring out the hose, right? They would hose down everything, pack up the concrete, and they would go. Then you had to run outside and do what? Write your name in the sidewalk. As a child, you were smart enough to know that you can't write on the sidewalk unless the concrete is what? Wet, soft, fresh. When it starts to harden, you can't inscribe your name. And that's your child. When your child is 12, 13, 14, 15, it's difficult to get them to memorize. It's difficult to get them to concentrate and to focus because they have so many hormones in their bodies. So the wise parent, he starts the training of his son or daughter at a what? A young age. 9, 10, 11, it's automatic for her to wear khimar. She feels shy and embarrassed for her hair to be exposed. Your son knows that he comes to the masjid, shh, quiet. The masjid is a safe, quiet place. You teach them, son, you don't play with girls. You don't look at girls. You don't do haram things. You teach them at a young age. So when they really are required to do the right thing, it's easier to do. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he says, woe to you. Our children are fasting. And obviously after that, Umar fadarabahu. He whipped him. He flogged him. He put the punishment on him for drinking alcohol, which is a major sin in Islam and which is punishable by Islamic law. Hadith number 1960. Imam Al-Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, jazakallah khairan. He comes with, or he mentions his chain of narration that goes back to Rubayya bint Mu'awwidh, radiallahu anha, that one day, during the day of Ashura and Muharram, the 10th of Muharram, the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the morning time, he sent a message. He made a declaration to the Sahaba, Man aftara sa'ib, or Man aftara muftiran falyutimma baqiyata yawmihi. He says, whoever is eating and drinking should fast for the remainder of his day. Man asbaha muftiran. It's Ashura. I want you to fast this day. This is a special day. This is a Yawmun Salih, the Jews would say. The day in which Moses was delivered from Pharaoh. And the Israelites, the Hebrews, were delivered from Pharaoh. The real Israelites. Naam? Okay? Allah Azza wa Jal never spoke about political Zionism in the Quran. Allah talked about Bani Israel, the followers of Musa, the descendants of Musa, the real followers of Musa, and those who also strayed from Musa's teachings. So many people, they talk about Israel in the Quran. If you want to talk about Israel, talk about what Allah says about Israel and how those Jews were cursed. And several ayat, Allah mentions that they're cursed and that they will be cursed until the day of judgment. And that Allah Azza wa Jal will send upon them Man yasumuhum su' al-adhab. He who will punish them and torture them until the end of time. Many people, they post things on social media that God talks about Israel in the Quran, but it doesn't mention Palestine. That's a fact. Palestine isn't mentioned in the Quran by a word. And Allah is talking about Israel and Bani Israel. He's not talking about you. He's not talking about someone, David Ben Gurion, the founding father of Israel. What did he say? The George Washington of Israel, the architect of the state of Israel. He said, most Jews in Israel don't believe in God, but all of them believe that God promised them this land. So what he said, the majority of them are godless, but they believe that God has promised us this land. So the Old Testament says that this land will be theirs, and they have a covenant, etc., right? But they don't believe in God. So the moral of the story is, Banu Israel, who are they? Who is Israel? Right? Who are the real Jews? Ahlul Kitab, whether they're believers or whether they're cursed. Versus someone who isn't from the lineage of Musa. Not his religion, let alone the blood. You came from Poland. You came from Russia. You came from Romania or any other part of Europe. This is not your land. For argument's sake, we believe in the Old Testament. Everyone believes in the Old Testament. The world is ran by what God says. How stupid does that sound? People don't govern countries based off of religion and faith. And anyone who governs a country or starts a war or politicizes religion is called a fundamentalist. Is this not the case? Except for the state of Israel. They're the only country in the world that is allowed to legitimize their state based off of what God says. Russia, Korea, North Korea, God says this is ours. Genghis Khan believed he was on a divine message, a divine mission to conquer and rule the world. That's what he believed. Did the people accept that from him? So the hypocrisy and the double, triple standards of these people and how they have people scared and terrified to use their brains. It says God promised us this land. Who made God your real estate agent? Who said that? And who said that you're a true follower of Moses? Let alone who said that you're actual descendant of this land? How did Jews turn white and European? How did it happen? It just magically, genetically mutated. It makes no sense. Point after point after point after point. Makes no sense. And it's all inaccurate. It's all a lie. But for argument's sake, for those who say that Israel is mentioned in the Quran, okay, we'll talk about Allah's curse of them. Let's talk about that. God promised the Israelites a covenant. They say, according to the Quran. And the Quran also says that you're cursed. Do you accept that? So the problem with people mixing religion and politics, the problem with people picking and choosing what they want, taking what they want, all right, we believe in some, we disbelieve in some. All right, it's a big problem. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He told us about them. And that is exactly what they do. Okay, they pick and choose what they want from the scripture. What's important is, the Jews in Medina were fasting Ashura. This is a righteous day. The Jews were delivered from Pharaoh. They were saved from Pharaoh. Pharaoh and his army was drowned in the Red Sea. All of his mighty chariots and horses, they were all drowned. هذا يوم صالح نجى الله فيه موسى وبني إسرائيل من فرعون. So we fast this day out of thankfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, نحن أحق بموسى منكم. He says, we are closer to Musa than you are. And we deserve Moses and respect Moses more than you do. And he told the Sahaba to fast the day of Ashura. But the day of Ashura has levels and stages. When it was obligatory, when it was recommended, fasting the 9th day, 10th day, 11th day, give or take. So here, he says, Man asbaha muftiran, he says, whoever is fasting, then he should stop fasting for the rest of the day. Okay? He should stop fasting for the rest of the day. وَمَنْ أَصْبَحَ صَائِمًا فَلْيَصُمْ. And whoever is fasting the day, he should keep fasting. He should keep fasting. Rubayya radiallahu anha, she said, فَكُنَّا نَصُومُهُ بَعْدُ. After hearing those words, we would fast Ashura. وَنُصَوِّمُ صِبْيَانَنَا. And we will force our children to fast Ashura. We will make our kids fast. وَنَجْعَلَ لَهُمُ اللُّعْبَةَ مِنَ الْإِهْنِ. And we will make for them toys, dolls, different things made from wool, made from fabric. فَإِذَا بَكَى أَحْدُهُمْ عَلَى الطَّعَامِ أَعْطَيْنَاهُ ذَاكَ حَتَّى يَكُونَ عِنْدَ الْإِفْطَارِ. And whenever the children would cry, they would want food, they would want milk, we would give them the toys. Whenever the children cried, we would preoccupy them until it was time for iftar. So the hadith clearly shows that the Sahaba forced their children to fast. Why did they do that? We have previously explained the benefit behind putting pressure and harshness on your children and certain things at certain times. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. And of course, this hadith, it goes to show the resilience of the Sahaba and how they were cunning, they were smart. And as I've explained or said before, sometimes you have to bribe your children. You have to. It's good for them. Right? You buy them things when they do the right thing. You preoccupy them with things in order they can stay focused upon doing the right thing instead of falling victim to their human nature. Children have to eat. And obviously one of the main reasons why children cry is because they're hungry. Khayran inshaAllah ta'ala. Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding this chapter, قوله باب صوم الصبيان أي هل يشرع أم لا والجمهور على أنه لا يجب على من دون البلوغ واستحب جماعة من السلف منهم ابن سيرين والزهري وقال به الشافعي أنهم يؤمرون به للتمرين عليه إذا أطاقوه وأحد أصحابه بالسبع والعشر كالصلاة وأحد إسحاق ب12 سنة وأحمد في رواية ب10 سنين وقال الأوزاعي إذا أطاق صوم 3 أيام تباعا لا يضعف فيهن حمل على الصوم والأول قول الجمهور والمشهور عن المالكية أنه لا يشرع في حق الصبيان وقد تلطف المصنف في التعقب عليهم بإيراد أثر في صدر الترجمة لأن أقصى ما يعتمدون في معارضة الأحاديث دعوى عمل أهل المدينة على خلافها ولا عمل يستند إليه أقوى من العمل في عهد عمر مع شدة تعريه ووفور الصحابة في زمانه وقد قال ذي أفطر في رمضان موبخا له كيف تفطر والصبيان الصيام وأغرب ابن الماجشون من المالكية فقال إذا طاق الصبيان الصيام ألزموه فإن أفطروا لغير عذر فعليه من القضاء. Listen carefully. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar, he says, what's meant by this chapter heading, should children fast or not? Is the act of children fasting, is it from the deen or not? هل يشرع أم لا? Is it legislated or not? The majority of the ulama, the majority of the scholars, they say it isn't obligatory unless they're of age, proving not all of them. And some hold the view that children must fast. Some scholars hold the view that children what? Have to fast, to show you how real it is and how deep it is. Once again, if they say that a child must fast, how shameful is it for your son who doesn't fast and he's grown? All right, so the majority of the scholars say that a child does not have to fast unless they're of age. Then Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar, he says, and a group from the Salaf, وَاسْتَحَبَّ جَمَاعَةٌ مِنَ السَّلَفِ, a group from the pious predecessors. How many times have we read this sentence in Fath al-Bari? Hafiz ibn Hajar quoting the Salaf al-Salih. People who say they're Shafi'i, they follow Hafiz ibn Hajar, we follow the classical scholars, etc., blah, 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 blah. Hafiz ibn Hajar is continually quoting who? So only a fool is going to say that it's something made up and it's new, it's overnight. Someone who lacks scholastic veracity, who hasn't read, who hasn't studied. He talks and doesn't know when to be quiet. It isn't a new thing. That doesn't mean this group or this gang or these people or those people. But the purity and going back to the purity and the orthodoxy is something which is what? Very old. And if you claim to respect someone, then take from his what? His sources. You go to a guy, a tailor. You need a suit made, a thobe made, a vest, a jacket, a suit jacket, right? And he says, I'm booked. I have no time. I would love to make it for you. I'm sorry. But look, my friend, he's a tailor. I'm going to send you to him. No, I want you to do it. I want you to, trust me. He's your tailor, and he's telling you what? Go to him. Rather, he taught me how to sew. I was his disciple at one point in time until we parted ways. I came from his school. Trust me. Go to him. I'm going to send you to him. I'm going to call him. He's going to sew you up really quick. So if you trust someone, you really trust someone, you respect someone, you're supposed to trust and respect their what? Their sources and references. And only a fool or a hypocrite is going to claim the love and the respect of a scholar and not who he's what? Who he's quoting. So know that for sure. And we've explained this how many times? Several times. With regards to people who claim to follow these scholars, I follow this aqidah, my aqidah, kada, etc., etc. I don't follow Ibn Abdul Wahhab, Ibn Taymiyyah, Fulan. I follow these scholars. All right, tell you. What are you going to do when you run into this brick wall? Hafiz ibn Hajar says the Salaf. And you're saying that Ibn Taymiyyah quoting the Salaf is made up a new thing, so on and so forth. You're going to look a great contradiction. So Hafiz ibn Hajar, he says that many of the Salaf, such as Ibn Sirin and such as Az-Zuhri, they said it was recommended that children should fast. And this is also the opinion of Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, that children should fast. For the children to train, for them to be trained, if they can do it. If it doesn't hurt them, if it doesn't harm them, it doesn't cause bodily harm, then they should fast. Don't be too soft of a parent. Don't be a tyrant. Don't be abusive. But don't be too soft on your child. You have to push your child. Hafiz bin Hajar then says, the disciples of Shafi'i said that the children should fast at the age of 7 and 10, just like Salah. Told to fast at 7, forced to fast at 10, just like the Salah. Ishaq ibn Rahaway, he said 12. Imam Ahmed said 10. And Awza'i, he said that if the child can fast 3 days in a row without being harmed, then they should what? Then they should fast. And some of them say that if he isn't too weak, he must fast. All right, and obviously the majority said that what? They don't have to, but they should. Now listen to this right now, in the same line, train of thought. He says, wal mashhuru, he says it's well known to the Maliki scholars, those who claim to follow Imam Malik, is that children should not fast. The majority say that they can, they should, is recommended. The Malikis, he says that which is well known. Some say yay or nay, but it's well known that they say that children what? They shouldn't fast. He says that Imam Al-Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, he gently rebuked them. Talattaf. He gently what? Rebuked them by quoting who? Who did he quote first? Umar. One of the main pillars of the Maliki madhab is taken from who? The people of Medina. Evolution of fiqh. One of the main pillars of Maliki madhab is taken from what? Amal Ahl Medina, what the people of Medina did. Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala and his disciples, their rationale was, if Islam was pure in any part of the world, then for sure it would be pure in Medina. The innovations weren't widespread in Medina like they were in Iraq, and Kufa, and Basra. They weren't Shiites and Qadari people, etc. Different heretical schisms and sects. Medina was pure. They weren't people fabricating hadiths. All right, the frontier lands, Persia, Iran, Mesopotamia. They met Zoroastrians, Christians, all different types of pagans and people. Medina was pure. So Malik said that what the people of Medina did, that's what I'm going to do. Even if there happens to be a hadith that says the opposite. If they didn't hear about it, they're not practicing it, I'm going to go with people of Medina. Is that right? Is that wrong? That's not the point. This is one of the main features of the Maliki school of thought. He says, who was the caliph of Medina? Umar. And Umar, he beat the man for drinking. And he censured the man for not fasting when the children were. So how would Umar allow the children to fast, tell the children to fast, make the children fast, and it wasn't from the deen? And this is an example of how depending upon that one concept of what the people of Medina did is flawed. And it cannot be absolute. You cannot make full dependence upon that. Whereas the Sahaba did not remain in Medina. Many of the Sahaba, they did what? They left. So if he left Medina, the Sahabi took with him what? So everything of knowledge and of the Prophet's legacy doesn't remain where? In Medina. Let alone there are levels of Amal Ahl Medina. It's a long discussion in Usul al-Fiqh. I'm just trying to make a point here. How people, they claim to follow something, but down to the nitty gritty, the virtue and the benefit of what? Of knowledge and of reading the athar, what the Sahaba said and did, right? As a means of guidance by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. So if Umar was the caliph, or Umar was extremely strict and harsh, following the rules and having knowledge of the rules, he allowed the children to fast, and they said that the children what? Shouldn't fast. Inconsistent. Everyone understand the point here? So he said Imam Al-Bukhari, he gently what? Gently touched him. Not too heavy, not too much, but what? Just a tap. But just to let you know that it's what? That it's there. And you can get what? You can get touched. Anybody can get touched. No one's off limits when it comes to knowledge. No one is above and beyond reproach. No one is above and beyond making a mistake, being criticized or criticizing. Except people who are fanatical, who only point the finger at people. And unfortunately, Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, rahimahullah ta'ala, what did he say? من فسد من علمائنا ففيه شبه باليهود ومن فسد من عبادنا ففيه شبه بالنصارى. He says those of our scholars who are corrupt, Abdullah ibn Mubarak says that our corrupt scholars have imitated the Jews. And our correct monks and worshipers have imitated the Christians. And from the imitation of the Jews, when it comes to scholars and people today, ashamed of nothing, offended by everything. And there are many people like that. They're ashamed of nothing. They'll criticize every walking, living creature. But the moment you take a small, tiny pebble and throw it at them, what do? They cry and they boo-hoo. But they criticize everyone and anyone. No one's off limits, except for when they want to be off limits. Ashamed of nothing. Slaughter people, hungry people that you starved. You're inside of a tank. We were afraid they were going to do something, so we mowed them down. Ashamed of nothing. But offended of what? Anything is anti-Semitism. This is wrong. This is illegal. This is immoral. This is inhumane. You're an anti-Semite. Just think about that now. And how we are not supposed to imitate the Jews and the Christians. All right? So no one is off limits when it comes to what? The ilm. No one is above the law. Period. And this is something we're supposed to make the Muslims different than the Jews and the Christians. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Sallallahu sallam wa baraka ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad. تفضل.
This was named the Q&A.
لا بأس نغير بعدين استمر تفضل.